Jake Coleman stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the massive alien vessels appear in the sky above Earth. The ships were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They blocked out parts of the sun and cast long shadows across the planet below. Jake had been an admiral in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. The alien ships looked like giant metal insects with wings spread wide. They moved silently through space, positioning themselves around Earth like predators surrounding their prey. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Mary Jones from her communication station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "It's coming from the largest ship." Jake nodded. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen flickered to life, showing the interior of an alien ship. The being that appeared looked like a giant insect standing on two legs. It had 4 arms, each ending in sharp claws. Its head was triangular with large black eyes that reflected no emotion. It wore what looked like armor made from dark metal. "I am Commander Velthar of the Zarathian Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and echoed strangely, as if it was speaking from inside a metal container. "We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your primitive planet is now under our control." Jake crossed his arms and watched the alien commander with interest. Around him, his crew members looked nervous. Some of them had never seen an alien before, but Jake had dealt with bullies his whole life, and this Velthar reminded him of every playground tough guy he had ever met. "You have 72 of your Earth hours to surrender," Velthar continued. "Your weapons are toys compared to ours. Your ships are slow and weak. Resistance will only make your deaths more painful." The alien commander raised one of his 4 arms, and behind him, Jake could see rows of soldiers in similar armor. They all carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. The message was clear: surrender or die. "Your leaders will broadcast their surrender on all channels," Velthar said. "If you refuse, we will destroy your cities one by one until you submit. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked around at his crew. Some of them looked scared. Others looked angry. But Jake felt something different. He felt like laughing. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Captain Susan Miller, his second in command. Jake walked to his command chair and sat down slowly. He had been in the military long enough to know that the scariest enemies were often the ones who made the biggest threats. Really dangerous people didn't need to tell you how dangerous they were. "Get me a direct line to President Murphy," Jake said, "and patch me through to General Parker at the Pentagon. I think they need to see this." While his communications officer worked to establish the connection, Jake studied the alien ships on his tactical display. They were big and looked impressive, but something bothered him about them. The way they moved seemed old-fashioned. Their energy signatures looked familiar, like technology he had seen before. "Sir, I have the President on the line," Lieutenant Jones reported. President Lisa Murphy appeared on a smaller screen next to Jake's chair. She was in the Oval Office, surrounded by her advisors. Her face was serious, but Jake thought he saw a hint of amusement in her eyes. "Admiral Coleman, I assume you saw our visitor's message," the President said. "Yes, ma'am. Quite the performance," Jake replied. "Have our intelligence people had a chance to analyze their ships yet?" General Chris Parker stepped into view behind the President. "We're running scans now, Admiral. But preliminary results are interesting. Their energy signatures match technology we cataloged about 50 years ago." Jake nodded. He had suspected something like that. "So they're not as advanced as they want us to think." "It gets better," said Dr. Amy Foster, appearing at the President's other side. Jake recognized her as the head of the Xenobiology Defense Initiative, a secret program that studied alien technology. "We've been monitoring their communications. They've been arguing among themselves about Earth for weeks." "Arguing about what?" the President asked. Dr. Foster smiled. "Whether we're worth the trouble. Apparently, some of their commanders think humans are too unpredictable to conquer safely. They've been reading our history and it's made them nervous." Jake felt his own smile growing. "So they're trying to scare us into surrendering without a fight, because they're afraid of what might happen if we actually fight back." "That's our assessment," General Parker confirmed. "The question is, how do we respond?" President Murphy leaned back in her chair. Jake had worked with 3 different presidents during his career, and he had never seen one look so relaxed when facing an alien invasion. "Well, gentlemen and ladies," she said, "I think it's time we showed our new friends why picking a fight with humanity is generally considered a bad idea." Jake looked out at the alien ships again. They still looked impressive and threatening, but now he saw them differently. They reminded him of the neighborhood bully who picks on smaller kids because he's afraid of fighting someone his own size. "What did you have in mind, Madam President?" Jake asked. "I'm thinking we give them exactly what they asked for," she said. "A response on all channels, but maybe not the response they're expecting." Dr. Foster was already pulling up files on her tablet. "Sir, we've been preparing for something like this for decades. We have contingency plans for dealing with hostile alien contact." "Good plans?" General Parker asked. "Oh, the best," Dr. Foster replied with a grin that made Jake think she had been looking forward to this day for a long time. "Plans that take advantage of humanity's greatest strength." "Which is?" the president asked. "Our complete inability to take anything seriously, even when we probably should." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. The fear and nervousness from earlier were gone. Instead, his people looked excited. They looked like they were getting ready for the best party of their lives. "Ma'am," Jake said to the president, "I think we're going to have some fun with this." "I certainly hope so, Admiral. I certainly hope so." As the connection ended, Jake turned to his crew. Outside the viewports, the alien ships continued their threatening display. But somehow, they didn't look nearly as scary as they had a few minutes ago. "All right, people," Jake announced. "It looks like we're about to show the galaxy why humans don't scare easily. Let's get to work." President Lisa Murphy walked into the White House press room with a smile that confused everyone watching. Most world leaders facing an alien invasion looked worried or angry. Lisa looked like she was about to tell the best joke of her life. Behind her, a massive screen displayed the Zorathian ships hanging in space above Earth. The alien vessels cast dark shadows across major cities, and their weapons pointed down at the planet like metal fingers of doom. It should have been terrifying. Instead, Lisa seemed almost amused by the whole situation. "Good evening, everyone," she began, stepping up to the podium. "I'm sure you've all heard about our visitors from the Zorathian Empire. They've given us 72 hours to surrender, which I have to say is very generous of them." In the audience, reporters looked confused. This was not the tone they expected from a president facing humanity's first alien invasion. Some of them started to wonder if Lisa had lost her mind from stress. "Now, I want to be clear about something," Lisa continued. "We take all threats to Earth very seriously, but we also believe in giving credit where credit is due. So I want to thank Commander Velthar and his empire for providing us with the best entertainment we've had in years." The screen behind her changed, showing a compilation video. The first clip showed the Zorathian commander delivering his ultimatum with great drama. Then it cut to a group of schoolchildren watching the broadcast and giggling at Velthar's serious voice. "You see, what our new friends don't realize is that humans have a bit of experience with bullies," Lisa said. "In fact, we've gotten pretty good at dealing with them over the years." The video continued, showing historical footage from Earth's past encounters with hostile alien species. There was the Rigelian Armada from 2098, whose mighty fleet had retreated after humans painted mustaches on all their ships while they were sleeping. Then came the Andromedan War Council, who had given up their invasion plans after human hackers filled their communication networks with cat videos. General Chris Parker watched from his command center in the Pentagon, coordinating Earth's defensive response with what could only be described as professional glee. "Status report from all sectors," he said into his headset. "Defense Grid Alpha is online and ready," came the reply from Captain Ben Hayes, commander of the stealth frigate Mockingbird. "We've got eyes on the big ugly ship in the center. Permission to begin Operation Cosmic Prank?" "Permission granted, Captain," General Parker replied. "Remember, we want them embarrassed, not destroyed. At least not yet." Captain Hayes was already moving his ship into position behind the largest Zorathian dreadnought. The Mockingbird was equipped with the latest stealth technology, making it invisible to most alien sensors. It was also loaded with what the military called non-lethal harassment devices, which was a fancy way of saying things designed to make the enemy look stupid. Meanwhile, in her laboratory beneath the Pentagon, Dr. Amy Foster was analyzing the alien technology with her team. "Pete, are you seeing these energy readings?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Pete Morgan. Pete looked up from his computer screen, shaking his head in disbelief. "Amy, their technology is at least 60 years behind ours. Maybe more. How did they conquer 1,000 worlds with equipment this outdated? Maybe they picked on species that were even further behind than they are," Amy suggested. Or maybe they just got lucky. Either way, they made a big mistake coming here. Back in the press room, President Lisa was explaining humanity's response to the ultimatum. "We've decided to make a counteroffer to the Zorathian Empire," she said. "Instead of us surrendering to them, we're giving them 72 minutes to reconsider their life choices and leave our solar system voluntarily." The reporters in the audience started talking all at once, asking questions over each other. Lisa held up her hand for silence. "Now I know what you're thinking," she continued. 72 minutes seems like a very short time to change their minds. But we're confident that once they see what we have planned for them, they'll understand that attacking Earth was not their best decision. The screen behind her changed again, this time showing a live feed from space. The Zorathian ships were still in their threatening formation, but something was different. Small objects were floating near the alien vessels, objects that hadn't been there before. "Those are our new diplomatic communication satellites," Lisa explained. "We launched them about an hour ago. They're designed to help us communicate more effectively with our visitors." What she didn't mention was that the satellites were also equipped with holographic projectors, signal jammers, and gravity manipulators. Captain Hayes had spent the last hour carefully positioning them around the alien fleet. At the same time, Lieutenant Carla Davis and her cyber warfare team were hard at work in their underground facility. They had been monitoring Zorathian communications since the aliens arrived, and they had discovered something interesting about alien computer security. "It's like they've never heard of firewalls," Carla said to her team. "Their systems are completely open. We could probably change their navigation computers to play music instead of giving directions." "That's actually not a bad idea," replied Sergeant Mike Turner, one of her top hackers. "What kind of music do you think aliens hate most?" "Let's find out," Carla said with a grin. Back on the Zorathian flagship, Commander Velthar was growing increasingly annoyed. The humans' response made no sense to him. Every other species the Zorathians had conquered had begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. These humans seemed to think the whole situation was funny. "Commander, we're receiving another transmission from the planet," reported one of his subordinates. "Put it on the main viewer," Velthar ordered. The screen showed President Lisa again, but this time she was standing in what appeared to be a military command center. Behind her, uniformed officers moved around displays showing tactical information. "Commander Velthar," Lisa said, speaking directly to the alien leader, "thank you for waiting. We've finished preparing our response to your ultimatum, and we're ready to show you what humanity has to offer." Velthar leaned forward in his command chair. Finally, the humans were taking him seriously. "You have decided to surrender?" he asked. "Not exactly," Lisa replied. "We've decided to give you a demonstration of why picking a fight with humans is generally considered a bad idea throughout this part of the galaxy." Before Velthar could respond, alarms started going off throughout his ship. His tactical officer was shouting about system malfunctions, and his communications officer reported that their networks were being flooded with something called memes. "What is happening?" Velthar demanded. On the view screen, President Lisa's smile grew wider. "Welcome to Earth, Commander. We hope you enjoy your stay." Lieutenant Sam Brooks had been in the Earth Defense Force for exactly 6 months. Fresh out of the academy, he had expected his first real assignment to involve routine patrol duty or maybe some asteroid mining protection. He definitely had not expected to be part of humanity's first alien invasion defense. And he certainly had not expected it to turn into the greatest comedy show in galactic history. Sam was stationed aboard the defense platform Jester's Gate, one of 12 orbital platforms that surrounded Earth. The platform was equipped with the latest defensive weapons, but today it was being used for something completely different. "Brooks, are you ready with the holographic projector?" asked Commander Rick Stone from the platform's control center. "Yes, sir, projector is online and ready," Sam replied, trying to keep the excitement out of his voice. The fake asteroid is positioned exactly where the aliens expect to see it. Below them, the Zorathian fleet was preparing to demonstrate their superior firepower. Commander Velthar had announced his intention to destroy what appeared to be a large asteroid floating near Earth's moon. It was supposed to show the humans how easily the Zorathians could destroy their cities. What the aliens didn't know was that the asteroid was actually a sophisticated, holographic projection created by human technology. Dr. Amy Foster and her team had spent years perfecting hologram, technology that could fool even advanced sensors. The fake asteroid looked completely real from every angle. "All stations, this is Control," came the voice of Flight Controller Tony Adams from the carrier Freedom's Dream. "The show is about to begin. Remember, we want this recorded from every possible angle. The internet will want to see this." Pilot Jenny Clark was flying her interceptor fighter in a patrol pattern near the alien fleet. She had volunteered for the dangerous job of getting close-up footage of whatever was about to happen. Her ship was equipped with cameras that could record in ultra-high definition. "Control, this is Wildcard," Jenny reported using her call sign. "I'm in position and recording. The big ugly ship is powering up its main weapon." On the Zorathian flagship, Commander Velthar stood on his bridge with his arms crossed, all four of them. He was confident that this demonstration would finally make the humans understand their hopeless situation. The asteroid he had chosen was large enough to be clearly visible from Earth's surface. When his weapons turned it into space dust, every human would see the power of the Zorathian Empire. "Target the asteroid," he commanded his weapons officer. "Full power. I want nothing left but particles." The massive alien ship's main weapon began to charge. Energy crackled along its length as power built up to devastating levels. On Earth, billions of people watched on their screens as the alien weapon prepared to fire. "Weapon charged and ready. Commander," reported the Zorathian weapons officer. "Fire," Velthar commanded. The Zorathian dreadnought unleashed a beam of pure energy that could have destroyed a small moon. The weapon fired with incredible force, lighting up space with its brilliant glow. It struck the asteroid dead center, exactly where Velthar had aimed. But instead of destroying the asteroid, something impossible happened. The beam passed right through it without any effect at all. The asteroid remained floating in space, completely undamaged. "What?" Velthar stared at his tactical display in confusion. "Fire again." The weapons officer fired a second time. Again, the beam passed harmlessly through the asteroid. Velthar's confusion turned to anger. "Impossible. Our sensors clearly detect a solid object. Fire everything!" The Zorathian ship unleashed its full arsenal at the stubborn asteroid. Dozens of energy beams and particle weapons struck the target, lighting up space like the biggest fireworks display in history. But the asteroid remained exactly where it was, apparently immune to all damage. What Commander Velthar didn't realize was that his weapons were hitting something solid, just not what he thought. Dr. Foster's team had positioned a network of mirror satellites in space, invisible to alien sensors. The mirrors were designed to redirect energy beams, and right now they were bouncing the Zorathian weapons fire in a very specific direction. "Oh no," whispered the Zorathian tactical officer as he realized what was happening on his sensors. "Commander, our weapons fire is being redirected." "Redirected where?" Velthar demanded. Before the tactical officer could answer, the Zorathian flagship shuddered as it was struck by its own weapons fire. The redirected energy beams hit the ship's rear shields, causing explosions across the hull. "We're shooting ourselves," the tactical officer shouted over the sound of alarms. On her fighter, Jenny Clark was recording everything with tears of laughter streaming down her face. "Control, are you seeing this? The aliens just shot themselves in the rear end with their own weapons." "Confirmed, Wildcard," replied Tony Adams, his own voice shaking with barely controlled laughter. "We have it all on record. This is going to break the internet." Lieutenant Sam Brooks watched the display from his defense platform and couldn't believe what he was seeing. The most feared military force in the galaxy had just been defeated by their own weapons and a fake asteroid that didn't actually exist. "Sir," Sam said to Commander Stone, "did we just watch an entire alien fleet get outsmarted by a hologram and some mirrors?" "That's exactly what we watched, son," Stone replied, shaking his head in amazement. "And it gets better. Foster's team has been analyzing their technology while they were busy shooting themselves. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Amy Foster was indeed studying the alien weapon signatures. What she had discovered was almost unbelievable. "Pete, you're not going to believe this," she said to her assistant. "Their energy weapons are based on quantum tunnel technology. We used that stuff in 2089 and threw it away because it was too slow and inefficient." Dr. Pete Morgan looked up from his analysis station. "You mean their super advanced alien weapons are actually older than my grandfather's car?" "Much older," Amy confirmed. "And apparently they never figured out how to compensate for energy reflection. Any first-year physics student could have told them that firing energy weapons at reflective surfaces was a bad idea. The implications were staggering. The Zorathian Empire, which claimed to have conquered 1,000 worlds, was using technology that Earth had considered obsolete for over a century. Their mighty fleet was essentially flying museums. Back on the Zorathian flagship, Commander Velthar was trying to understand how his demonstration of superior firepower had turned into his ship being damaged by its own weapons. His bridge crew was running around trying to repair systems and stop the alarms that were ringing throughout the ship. "Status report," Velthar demanded. "Rear shields at 30%, reported his damage control officer. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Engineering reports that our main weapon system has overheated and will need 6 hours to cool down." "How did this happen?" Velthar asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "The humans appeared to have used some kind of reflective technology to redirect our weapons fire back at us," the tactical officer explained. "Our sensors never detected it." Velthar stared at the asteroid that had started this whole embarrassing incident. It was still floating there, mocking him with its continued existence. For the first time since arriving at Earth, he was beginning to wonder if attacking this planet had been a mistake. On Earth, the footage of the Zorathian fleet accidentally shooting itself was already being turned into memes and shared across every social media platform in existence. Within hours, the hashtag ZorathianFail was trending not just on Earth, but across the entire galactic internet. President Lisa Murphy watched the entire incident from her command center, and when it was over, she turned to General Parker with a satisfied smile. "Well, General, I think we've established who has the superior technology. What's our next move?" General Parker consulted his tactical display, where the Zorathian fleet was still trying to repair the damage they had inflicted on themselves. "Ma'am, I suggest we move to Phase 2 of the operation. I think it's time to show them what happens when humans get creative." By the second day of what the media was calling the Great Alien Embarrassment of 2189, Commander Velthar was getting desperate. His mighty fleet had been made to look foolish by humans using technology he didn't understand. His reputation as a conqueror was being destroyed by creatures he had assumed were primitive savages. Velthar decided it was time for a different approach. Instead of trying to intimidate the humans from space, he would land ground forces and show them the superiority of Zorathian warriors up close. "Prepare the assault battalion," he ordered his ground commander, Colonel Zexkar. "We will land in the center of their largest city and demonstrate our martial prowess. Surely their warriors will recognize superior skill when they see it." "Which city should we target?" asked Colonel Zexkar, studying the tactical display of Earth's major population centers. "There." Velthar pointed to what appeared to be a massive concentration of humans in the area called New York. "Their sensors show millions of potential hostages gathered in one location. We will land there and force their leaders to watch as we display our combat abilities." "What commander?" Velthar didn't know was that Lieutenant. Carla Davis and her cyber warfare team had been very busy during the night. They had hacked into the Zorathian navigation systems and made some creative modifications to their targeting computers. "Mike, are you sure this is going to work?" Carla asked her partner, Sergeant Mike Turner, as they watched their computer screens show the alien landing ships preparing to launch. "Trust me, Carla," Mike replied with a grin. "I've redirected their navigation to the coordinates for the Jacob Javits Convention Center. Today is the opening day of Comic-Con International. They're going to land right in the middle of the biggest costume party on the planet." Meanwhile, 16-year-old Alex Turner, no relation to Sergeant Mike Turner, was putting the finishing touches on his homemade Zorathian warrior costume. Alex had spent months researching alien cultures for the convention, and his costume was based on historical footage of real Zorathian soldiers from diplomatic encounters decades ago. "Alex, hurry up," called his friend Brad Wilson from downstairs. "We need to get to the convention center early if we want good seats for the costume contest." Alex grabbed his carefully crafted replica of a Zorathian energy weapon and headed downstairs. He had no idea that in a few hours he would meet the real thing. The Zorathian assault ships launched from the flagship with great ceremony. 200 of the Empire's finest warriors, led by Colonel Zexkar himself, descended toward what they believed was the heart of human military resistance. They expected to find soldiers, weapons, and fortified positions. Instead, they found 10,000 humans in costumes, cheering their arrival and asking for selfies. The landing ships touched down in the main exhibition hall of the convention center just as the morning costume parade was beginning. The massive doors of the Zorathian transports opened with dramatic hissing sounds, and 200 alien warriors in full battle armor marched out in perfect formation. The crowd went wild. "Oh my God, that's the best entrance ever," screamed a teenage girl dressed as a space princess. "The smoke effects are amazing. How did they get permission to land real ships in here?" wondered a college student wearing a robot costume. Colonel Zexkar stepped forward, energy weapon raised, ready to deliver a terrifying ultimatum to the assembled humans. But before he could speak, he was surrounded by excited fans taking pictures and complimenting his armor. "Dude, your costume is incredible," said Alex Turner, walking right up to the alien commander. "But you know the ceremonial armor changed after the Andromeda Fashion Accords, right? Those shoulder spikes went out of style like 30 years ago." Colonel Zexkar stared down at the human teenager in confusion. The boy was wearing what appeared to be a perfect reproduction of modern Zorathian military dress uniform, complete with rank insignia that indicated he was a captain in the Imperial Guard. "How do you know about the Fashion Accords?" Zexkar demanded. "Wikipedia," Alex replied casually. "Also, there was this really good documentary series about alien military history on the Discovery Channel last year. Your people were featured in episode 6. The alien colonel looked around at the thousands of humans, many of whom were wearing costumes that depicted his own culture with startling accuracy. Some of the costumes were actually better made than the real Zorathian equipment. "This is not how invasions are supposed to work," Zexkar muttered to himself. Meanwhile, Captain Rachel Stone was watching the entire scene from her ship, the USS Practical Joke, which was orbiting Earth. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Paul Brown, was recording everything for the official military record. "Are you getting all of this, Lieutenant?" Rachel asked, trying to keep from laughing out loud. "Yes, ma'am," Paul replied, his voice shaking with suppressed laughter. The alien ground commander appears to be arguing with a high school student about the authenticity of his own uniform. Back at the convention, the situation was getting more surreal by the minute. Commander Velthar had decided to personally beam down to take control of the situation. He materialized in the center of the exhibition hall in a flash of blue light, expecting to find his warriors terrorizing helpless humans instead. He found Colonel Zexkar sitting at a table signing autographs while a human in a Zorathian costume explained the proper way to attach ceremonial battle ribbons. "What is the meaning of this?" Velthar roared, his voice echoing throughout the convention hall. The crowd turned to look at him and immediately burst into applause. "Velthar," shouted someone from the back of the room, "I loved you in Galaxy Warrior 7. Can you do the thing with the 4 arms?" Velthar looked around in confusion. Everywhere he looked, he saw humans wearing versions of Zorathian clothing, carrying replica Zorathian weapons, and discussing Zorathian culture with more knowledge than most actual Zorathians possessed. "Sir," Colonel Zexkar approached his commander, "I think we may have made an error in our intelligence gathering." "What kind of error?" Velthar asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "The humans appear to know more about our military history than we do," Zexkar explained. "This young human just explained why our energy weapons keep overheating. Apparently it's a well-known design flaw that was documented in their historical records." Alex Turner walked up to the 2 alien commanders completely unafraid. "Are you guys here for the panel discussion about the Zorathian Empire's military tactics?" he asked. "Because I have some questions about your fleet formations. They don't match what our historians say you used during the Rigel campaigns." Commander Velthar stared at the teenager in shock. "How do you know about the Rigel campaigns?" "Oh, that's basic stuff," Alex replied. "We studied it in school. Your empire is covered in our standard galactic history curriculum, although our teachers say your tactical manuals have some serious problems with logistics planning." Before Velthar could respond, the convention's public address system crackled to life. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special surprise guests, the Zorathian Empire delegation," announced the convention director. "They'll be available for photos and autographs all day, and don't forget to check out their amazing costumes in the contest this afternoon." Velthar looked around at his warriors. They were standing in small groups surrounded by enthusiastic humans who were treating them like celebrities. Some of his soldiers were actually enjoying the attention, posing for pictures and accepting compliments on their equipment. "This is not an invasion," Velthar said to himself. "This is a fan convention." High above the Earth, Admiral Jake Coleman was monitoring the situation from his flagship. He turned to his communications officer with a satisfied smile. "Send a message to the president," he said. Tell her that Phase 2 of the operation has been a complete success. The alien ground forces have been neutralized by excessive friendliness and superior cosplay. On the planet's surface, Commander Velthar was beginning to realize that conquering Earth might be more difficult than he had originally thought. These humans didn't seem to understand that they were supposed to be afraid of him. Instead, they kept asking him to pose for pictures. On the third day of the invasion, Commander Velthar sat in his command chair and stared at the reports from his ground forces. Colonel Zexkar had just informed him that 3 of his warriors had entered the costume contest at the human gathering and placed second, third, and honorable mention. One of them had apparently given an interview to something called a podcast about proper maintenance of Zorathian energy weapons. "Sir, we have a problem," reported his communications officer. "The humans are broadcasting something they call a compilation video." "Show me," Velthar ordered, though he suspected he wouldn't like what he was about to see. The main screen lit up with what appeared to be a professionally edited entertainment program. The title read Zorathian Epic Fails, a 3-day summary in bright, colorful letters. Background music that sounded suspiciously cheerful began to play. The video opened with footage of the Zorathian fleet's dramatic arrival at Earth, complete with Velthar's threatening ultimatum. But instead of inspiring fear, it was followed by clips of human children laughing at his speech and making jokes about his appearance. "Oh no," Velthar whispered as he recognized what was happening. The video continued with highlights from the past 3 days. There was the asteroid incident, where the mighty Zorathian fleet had accidentally shot itself while trying to destroy a hologram. The footage was played in slow motion with circus music in the background. Next came clips from the convention center landing, showing Zorathian warriors being defeated in hand-to-hand combat demonstrations by weekend martial arts enthusiasts from Nevada. One particularly embarrassing segment showed Colonel Zexkar losing an arm wrestling contest to a 60-year-old grandmother named Dorothy Martinez. "This is a disaster," Velthar muttered, watching his military reputation crumble in real time. But the video wasn't finished. The next segment showed his scout ships getting lost in Earth's atmosphere, despite GPS being freely available to anyone with a smartphone. 3 of his pilots had been forced to land and ask for directions from a group of teenagers at a gas station. The final segment was perhaps the most humiliating. It showed the Zorathian flagship's computer systems being hacked by 12-year-old Lucy Chen, who had been bored during summer vacation, and decided to see if alien computers were harder to break into than her school's network. They weren't. Lucy had apparently spent several hours exploring the Zorathian databases before anyone noticed. She had reorganized their personnel files, changed all their passwords to password 123, and left a note saying, "Your cybersecurity is really bad. You should probably fix that." "How?" Velthar asked the universe in general. "How did we get defeated by a child who was bored?" The video ended with President Lisa Murphy delivering a final message to the Zorathian Empire. She was standing in the same press room where she had first responded to Velthar's ultimatum 3 days ago. But now she looked less amused and more businesslike. "To Commander Velthar and the Zorathian Empire," she began, "we want to thank you for the entertainment value you've provided over the past 3 days. However, we're afraid we'll have to pass on your surrender demand." Behind her, the screen showed a live feed from space where Captain Ben Hayes was demonstrating Earth's actual military capabilities. Using something called a gravity tether, he was rearranging the entire Zorathian fleet into a pattern that was clearly visible from Earth's surface. "As you can see," President Murphy continued, "our defense capabilities are somewhat more advanced than you initially calculated. In fact, we'd like to make a counteroffer. How about you surrender to us instead? We promise to make it significantly less embarrassing than what you've experienced so far." Velthar looked out the viewports of his ship and saw his mighty fleet being moved around like toys by invisible forces. His dreadnoughts, which had struck fear into 1,000 worlds, were being arranged into what humans called a smiley face pattern. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "they're not even using weapons. They're just moving us around like we're not even here." "I can see that," Velthar replied through gritted teeth. The demonstration continued as Captain Hayes used his ship's advanced technology to make the Zorathian vessels perform what could only be described as a synchronized dance routine. The massive alien warships spun and twirled through space in perfect formation, completely unable to resist the human technology controlling them. Dr. Amy Foster watched the display from her laboratory and shook her head in amazement. "Pete, are you recording all of this?" "Every second," Dr. Pete Morgan confirmed, although I'm not sure anyone will believe it without video evidence. The final insult came when Earth's communication networks broadcast a message directly to the Zorathian ships. Instead of another ultimatum or threat, it was a customer satisfaction survey. "Thank you for visiting Earth," the cheerful automated voice announced. "Please take a moment to rate your invasion experience on a scale of 1 to 10. Did our defense forces meet your expectations? Would you recommend Earth to other conquering empires? Please leave your feedback on Galactic Yelp." That was the moment Commander Velthar finally understood that he had made a terrible mistake. These humans weren't primitive savages who could be frightened into submission. They were a species that had turned warfare into entertainment and embarrassment into an art form. "Navigation," he said quietly, his voice heavy with defeat. "Set course for home. Maximum speed." "Sir, what about the invasion?" asked Colonel Zexkar, who had just beamed back up from the convention center wearing a "I survived Comic-Con 21 and 89" t-shirt. "The invasion is over," Velthar replied. "We're leaving." "But sir, the High Command expects us to conquer the system." Velthar turned to look at his ground commander with tired eyes. "Colonel, in the past 3 days we have been outsmarted by holograms, defeated by mirrors, embarrassed by children, and turned into a comedy routine by an entire planet. Our warriors are asking for human autographs, and our computers have been hacked by a 12-year-old. What exactly do you suggest we tell the High Command?" Colonel Zexkar thought about this for a moment. "That Earth is too well defended to conquer?" "No," Velthar said. "We tell them that Earth is too dangerous to attack, but not because of their weapons. We tell them that humans are the most psychologically devastating enemy in the galaxy, and that any species that tries to conquer them will end up as the subject of their entertainment industry." As the Zorathian fleet prepared to leave Earth's solar system at maximum speed, one final message was broadcast to their ships. It came from the same 12-year-old girl who had hacked their computers. "Thanks for visiting Earth," Lucy Chen's voice said over their communication systems. "Sorry you have to leave so soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our Planetary Defense channel, and remember to tell your friends that Earth is not available for conquest. Have a safe trip home." The Zorathian fleet jumped to hyperspace so quickly that they left scorch marks in space behind them. Within a week, the Zorathian Empire had officially added Earth to their "Do Not Invade Under Any Circumstances" list. The file was marked with warnings about human, psychological warfare capabilities and their tendency to turn serious military situations into viral entertainment. The incident became required reading at military academies across the galaxy. The official case study was titled, "Why Superior Technology Means Nothing If You Can't Handle Basic Psychological Warfare." The Earth Incident. Earth's tourism industry experienced an incredible boom as aliens from across the galaxy came to visit the planet whose inhabitants had defeated an invasion by making fun of it. Comic-Con became an annual interspecies cultural exchange, and the Zorathian costume contest became a permanent feature. And in her laboratory beneath the Pentagon, Dr. Amy Foster began working on new defensive strategies, just in case someone else made the same mistake as Commander Velthar. Her first project was a system designed to automatically rickroll any alien species that sent threatening messages to Earth. After all, as she noted in her official report, if there's one thing humans excel at, it's making fun of beings who take themselves too seriously, and there's no reason we can't turn that into a planetary defense strategy.